and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And I'm the top 1% of Beyonce fans on Spotify, Mike.
And we are Coltonless. He decided he was taking a vacation day, and, you know, since we decided we want to run an ethical company, we decided to give him one.
Without pay.
Without pay, of course. I'm not paying him. But we do have a very special guest on this episode, Chris from every horror movie on Netflix. I really make sure I don't say every movie on Netflix like I usually do, and then put that kind of pressure on you guys.
Yeah, that would be entirely too much. There's too much content coming on Netflix. I'm not trying to watch Bullet Train anytime soon. But yes, hello. It's good to be here. I only came here for Colton, though.
Yeah. Colton told me that there could only be one straight man on the podcast. Not
Okay.
sexuality, but just to keep us in line. Maybe two would it'd be a little military stylish.
Military. Oh my god.
I don't know though.
I mean,
we'll get wild.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie?
I don't know if I'm the straight man or not, but we'll see.
We'll find out. We'll see if you can keep us on task on our own podcast. So yeah, Chris, why don't you tell everyone about your podcast and just what you got going on?
Yeah, the podcast is Every Horror Movie on Netflix. We put out an episode every 2 weeks, so we're not quite as prolific as you guys, but we are watching every horror movie on Netflix. It's just what it sounds like. We used to do alphabetical order. It got a little too grueling, but now we just pick movies that we want to watch that are sort of off the beaten trail, and we review them and discuss them, and it's designed so that if you are curious about all those horror movies on the Netflix catalog that you scroll by and never want to spend your time watching, you can listen to us sort of break them down for you, or if you just want a companion to talk to while you are watching the movies yourself, you can enjoy it that way. But yeah, every horror movie on Netflix. Check us out.
And I feel like if you listen to this podcast, you should know them anyway, because we've done so many crossover episodes that it's been ridiculous. And it's been ridiculous that we haven't had Chris on earlier.
Yeah. We do the show with Patrick, who you might have heard, and Steven, who you might have heard on this program before. And then we bring on special guests. We've had some of you guys on in the past. Good little collaborative family here.
That's right. So make sure you go check that out. So we're going to get right into what media we've been consuming. Have you been reading anything good? Watching anything good? Listening to anything good? And Chris, you're the guest. We'll start with you.
Oh, man. Well, I watched Smile last week.
Oh, there you go.
And I enjoyed it for the most part. It was really dumb, but it seemed like it was kind of knowingly dumb, and it kind of had some smart ideas behind it, I thought. Enough to keep me on board through it. And it wasn't as scary as I thought. The trailer made it look like it was going to be a lot scarier than it was. So it was all right. It wasn't great, but I had fun with it.
Yeah, me and Colton went and saw that together when I was in Newfoundland. And yeah, I feel like we felt the same. It was good. I think it was worth like the hour and a half, 2 hours it was, or whatever.
Yeah, it kind of wears its intentions on its sleeve. But I was like, oh, this movie's about the facades that people and institutions put on themselves, and the smile is a metaphor, and I like that.
Yeah, I thought it was very much kind of like It Follows mixed with The Ring.
Mm-hmm. But not as good.
Yes,
as
it definitely had It Follows vibes from the trailer. You're right. I was trying to figure out what it reminded me of, and that's it.
Yeah, I'll warn you, Chris. Anything new Mike just never sees till like 2 years later.
Me neither.
It's true.
Me neither.
I did see Pearl opening day, and that was the first time I went to a movie in 2 years. So
How about you, Mike?
Listen, you know I've been consuming a lot of trash. I've been really trying to get through all 7 seasons of Real Housewives of Potomac. I'm on the last season now, so I've been doing that. And honestly, the only other thing in like the last 2 weeks that I've consumed, because I've been working so much, because it's like been Black Friday and everything, is the other night I actually rewatched for the first time in many years, with a couple of our dear friends, Christine, John Carpenter classic, great Stephen King novel, which I do have to reread because I haven't read that in like 15 years. So that was really fun. I got to watch it in 4K and it was absolutely delicious. Like,
it looks gorgeous in 4K.
It looks so good. Like the rain coming down on the windows, I just wanted to like lick it. You know what I mean? It was a wonderful experience, I gotta say. Yeah. That's really all. I mean, that was a nice, I think I'm gonna go back and like, I'm in this mood to like just rewatch a lot of like, I don't want to call it minor John Carpenter, but like underappreciated John Carpenter. A lot of 80s stuff is like unfairly, cast aside. Other than that, I was padding out my Spotify Wrapped. What about you, Ro?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of trash kind of too. I'm sure anybody that's been following like my Letterboxd adventures, I deep dived into the mid to late 2000s of like the date movie and epic movie and superhero movie, because I remember like seeing those in the theater when they came out. I would have like just been out of high school when they came out, and boy, they were bad. None of them were good. It's kind of interesting. Kevin Hart's in all of them, kind of like before anyone knew who Kevin Hart was. He was just kind of this reoccurring actor in all of them. And, it wasn't great. I know I had texted our group chat for It Slays. I watched my first Marilyn Monroe movie, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes.
Was it hilarious?
I really liked it. Like, it was really funny. It actually kind of really holds up. It's like kind of this like really well done like feminist comedy, and it's just like I said, I've never seen a Marilyn Monroe movie at all. I've never seen anything. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it.
But you saw Blonde, right?
I did see Blonde. That's why I was curious. And then when I watched it, I was like, yeah, this is fantastic. Like, Marilyn Monroe had like really great comedic timing. I can see why she, not just like the sexiness of her, but just like the actual acting chops were there. It was super impressive. On the horror side of things, I watched Extraterrestrial, which is a Scream Factory put it out. It's from 2014. But it's on Tubi right now.
Beloved Tubi.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. It's a kind of fire in the sky UFO movie, but then mash it with like a cabin in the woods slasher film. And it's like a teen rated R horror. It's like super interesting. Like, it's not like Casablanca or anything, but it definitely was a super fun time.
Oh, Michael Ironside is in it.
Yes, he is.
Fuck, what a god. Like, truly.
And you'll be listening to this next Sunday, but this morning we released a new Now Slain, me, Colton, and Jill. We watched and reviewed A Wounded Fawn, which is the new Shudder original that came out. Lots of magazines and articles about it coming out. Really, really strong movie. I can't think of the guy's name. It's like Travis. I want to say Travis Barker, but I know that's the Blink-182 guy. But
Fickle.
Yeah, it's the same guy that did Jacob's Wife with Barbara Crampton.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think the best description I saw of it was if you took Fresh and then collided it with Evil Dead 2. And yeah, it's kind of this love letter to giallo movies. It's shot in 16 millimeter, and it's all about the world of Greek mythology and surrealist art collecting. It's really out there, and I suggest everyone go see it. And then the last thing I'll say is I woke up early this afternoon. I didn't go to bed till like 9 o'clock this morning. Got up early and finally went and saw The Menu. And it was fantastic. Fantastic. And Ralph Fiennes is just, he's like America's national treasure. I love Ralph Fiennes. So it was fantastic. If you're into like...
But he's not American.
What is he? I don't know.
Isn't he like British?
Is he? I thought he's American. I don't know.
Jamie, pull that shit up.
Vivian, get on it.
He's English.
He's English. I guess he's an English treasure. Obviously loved
but
by
we're Canadian, so that's sort of like the colonialist.
But yeah, we're so rocking with that kinda. It was pretty good. If you're into like A24 movies, this movie felt like it should be on A24, but it's on Searchlight. But it was very kinda, I don't know, you know, it's a Colton type horror movie. It's like highbrow horror. But it's done really well. But yeah, that's all I'll talk about. That's all we have been consuming. So, yeah, the pick is kind of our only winner pick for December, because you'll find out later in the episode that when Mike was given the task of picking out a December horror film, he failed miserably. So stay tuned for the end of the episode to find that out. But I picked 30 Days a Night. From 2007, Josh Hartnett vehicle, kind of, Steve Niles. So let's get into the trailer, then we'll get into the bio and the first experiences.
Based on the groundbreaking graphic novel.
Board the windows. Try to hide. They're coming.
Who are they? A new vision of the vampire comes to life.
Gabe! Somebody!
They're using her as bait.
Please, God.
No God. 30 Days of Night. Rated R.
And the bio is as such. The story of an isolated Alaskan town that is plunged into darkness for a month each year when the sun sinks below the horizon. As the last rays of light fade, the town is attacked by a bloodthirsty gang of vampires.
Is there any other kind?
And apparently they're bent on an uninterrupted orgy of destruction. Only the small town's husband and wife sheriff team stand between the survivors and certain destruction. And I also, I didn't say at the beginning, but I know, Colton will be shaking his head. I'm already doing a terrible job at his job, which is reading the bio and all that stuff. But it is directed by David Slade and written by Stuart Beatty, Brian Nelson, and Steve Niles, of course. So our first experiences. Is this our first time watching this? Have we seen it before? Mike, we'll start with you.
Okay, so weirdly, this is one of those ones that ever since it came out, I don't know why I didn't see it in theaters when it came out, because, you know, like the sort of thing I would have seen opening night. But I didn't. And then I think I kept putting it off because I heard that the graphic novel was really good. And I thought, you know, I think I was really on a graphic novel kick at that time. So I was like, I'm going to read the graphic novel first and then watch the movie. And I never did find the graphic novel. And then it sort of just slipped off my radar because it's one of those things that, like, I think when it came out, it was pretty big and then it just sort of disappeared. So I just never saw it. I keep forgetting that it exists. And then all of a sudden you were like, we're doing 30 Days of Night. And I'm like, damn, finally, I get to watch this movie. And I love Josh Hartnett too. So it's weird that I never ever saw it. Like moody Josh Hartnett in a vampire movie. Like I can't think of anything better. Like nothing. What about you, Chris?
I became aware of, so I was in like a nerdy kid book discussion club when I was in high school, like probably like 2006 or so. And I remember people talking about this graphic novel and the concept behind it. And I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. Cause I've always been a vampire guy. I didn't see the movie when it came out though. I saw it probably late 2008 or something. I think I rented it and I watched it in college with a girl that I was hopelessly in the friend zone with.
Oh no.
Of course.
brings back some rough memories for me. But I think her head may have been on my shoulder watching this in my bedroom on my iMac screen. But
so you didn't actually see the movie at all, is what I'm hearing.
No, I remember it vividly. And so yeah, that was I saw it then, and I might have even watched it twice or in parts, like because I don't know, a lot of times like I would rent a movie and then I would watch it, and then I'd say to the rest of my housemates like, oh, I rented this movie, and then they might watch it the next afternoon, and so I'd kind of watch it twice. So that might have happened because I remember quite a bit of the movie for having only seen it once in 2008. But yeah, so I saw it then and I haven't seen it since, and so I was eager to revisit it and see if it was good because I remembered it being good.
Yeah, and I can't really remember. I feel like there's no way I didn't see this in the theater. This seems like the kind of film I'd see in the theater, but maybe I rented it. I'm not sure, but I've definitely seen this, I'd say, one or two times. I was kind of out of comics when this came out, so I wasn't really aware of the graphic novel till later on. I have read the graphic novel now. There's like 8 million miniseries comic book series of 30 Days a Night. This is a pretty, like, well-selling series. So I've read, like, some prequel stuff they've done and just that kind of stuff. I'm a big fan of Steve Niles. I really love his writing. He's got, like, a very distinct comic book style. And the artwork for these was, I thought, fantastic. They weren't for everyone, kind of very sketchbookish. But I always enjoyed kind of the offbeat style that his comics brought.
What else has he done? I know his stuff. I just can't think of it right offhand. Anything I know?
Jeez, he does like a lot of gothic stuff. I think if I remember correctly, I think he did like a Frankenstein comic for IDW.
Oh, okay.
He did a lot of stuff for IDW. I'm very familiar with, I also in our group text had been talking about, he did this oversized graphic novel called Lust, which is about like fetish models, and it's like a weird, the graphic novel is 11 by 17, and it's all different ways to read comics. So some of it's all words, some of it's all pictures, some of it is half a page of words, half a page of pictures. Some of it you got to turn upside down and sideways, but it was very peculiar, very original. So those are kind of, this and that Lust are kind of what I have always known him for.
Oh, okay.
If you can tell, Chris, like, there's no research done over here.
Well, hey, we on our show, we usually read the Wikipedia entry for a movie before we talk about it.
Nice. I think I did that while I was watching it, and then I forgot all about it.
Well, I was curious if you guys had read the graphic novel, because this whole movie to me sort of felt like a trailer for a good graphic novel.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It's been a long time since I've read the actual graphic novel, but if I remember, this is, as far as comic book movies go, this is like pretty on par for the story of the graphic novel. Like, I do know they changed kind of, if I remember, I don't think the graphic novel really had like a romance or anything in it. Also, the sheriff wasn't a white guy. It was I think they were supposed to be a Nook, so they did change that for the movie, and obviously had to like flesh stuff out to make it a movie. I remember reading that they said like they needed more romance or whatever in it to kind of sell the movie. Yeah. Of course.
Well, you got Josh Hartnett, so
yeah.
You know.
I mean, sadly, that bedhead is hidden under.
I was gonna say missing the iconic sculpting of the hair. Let's say
something like that. But yeah, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the review. We know where we're starting. We always start with our favorite scene and or favorite kill. Chris, start us off.
Well, this, and I was trying to figure out if there was a reason why you invited me to be on this episode in particular, and I have a couple theories. But if we've talked about 30 Days of Night before, but if I've talked about 30 Days of Night with anyone, I usually reference this scene because it's stuck with me since I saw it in 2008. And that's when the woman is walked out through the town as bait.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, we got to save her. And they're like, no. They're using her as bait. And some poor woman's walking through the street. And then she confronts the head vampire and she's like begging for her life. And she's like, please, God. And he says, God? And he like looks up to the sky as if to see if God's gonna answer, and then he says, no, God. And then he kills her. And people say to me, they'll say something God, and I'll say, God? No, God. It really stuck with me. And so that's my favorite moment in the movie. It's my favorite everything from this movie, basically.
Yeah, I was gonna say Danny Huston as the head vampire is so magnetic. He's so good in this. I forgot how good he was in this.
Well, the weird thing is all these vampires speak to each other in like this click-clacky tongue that is subtitled, which I don't know if it's based on any sort of real world language, but I'm guessing not.
It's not. I did read that, they got some linguistic professor to help them create a language for the film.
Okay, so I guess they're actually, what I thought was like, maybe they're just like, let's have these guys, maybe we'll make up the dialogue in post, depending on how we edit this, is what I thought.
I mean, that very well could be. I thought it was kind of interesting because with the language stuff, when I was watching it, I almost felt like maybe you could have done it without the language, because I kind of got the idea that these vampires are just like feral animals. So to me, I was wondering if it would have been more effective for them to just kind of like hiss and scream and just like kind of like guttural animal sounds instead of having like a language where it'd be more on like an animalistic level.
But okay, hold up. I'm still So what you guys are telling me is that when you were watching this movie, when they were speaking that language, it was subtitled.
Yeah.
Well, half the time, not all the time, but yes, you had no subtitles in your movie.
Oh, Mike!
I literally half this movie was just them barking these words at each other, and there were no fucking subtitles. So I'm just sitting there like, honestly, I thought it was terrifying. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what are they saying to each other? And it's
anytime there's like an extended scene, like where the Danny Huston vampire is like walking along, like Patton walking by the other vampires, and he's going, then that's supposed to be subtitled.
Oh my god!
Wow. I actually found them so terrifying because I didn't know what they were saying.
So my theory holds up right. I like this.
So what you're saying is I just literally straight up right off the bat missed like a third of the movie.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, that dialogue is kind of the worst part of the movie.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah, because it's stuff like it's like in the plot of this movie, they arrive in this town via like a ghost ship, which is really a striking image. It gets under my skin. You see the guy who I thought, I'll tell you more about my Mandela effect experience with this movie, but I thought it was Jared Leto who was Ben Foster's character. You see him see this ship come in. So they come in off a ship, and then like once they start killing people in town, they have like a little vampire meeting, and then the head vampire's like, okay, so here's what we're gonna do, here's what we're not gonna do. I'm like, why wouldn't you would have discussed this on the boat over here, surely. Like,
what else were you doing?
You don't plan for a year to go to the town where there's 30 days of night and not know what you're gonna do once you get there. Everyone needs to be on the same page. But so yeah, it is a lot of cringe exposition when the vampires are talking to each other. But there's also some cool stuff, and like they just say, like he says weird stuff, like, you know, what's an example? What's he say to the guy who's not Jared Leto when he kills him? He says
something like we're gonna take care of you, and like, are you talking about the scene where basically like Ben Foster thinks that he's gonna get turned, and then they like snap his neck?
The stories they believe or something, and then I don't know, later on he's like, he kills the other guy and he's like, when you try to when you meet something you can't destroy, you destroy yourself or something like.
Oh wow.
It's very like high school edgelord, like, I'm gonna draw this on my notebook sort of dialogue.
I will say with the character of like the stranger, all I thought about like the whole beginning of this movie is how we as a society and as a movie watching public, I feel have just really done Ben Foster like wrong. Like, I feel like he should just be so much...
Have we, though? Have we?
He's so good in everything he's in. I love him so much. Okay, whatever. I guess he's not good, and...
No, listen, I'll give it to you. It's fine. He is what he is.
So listen, for some reason, and I can't explain this, I Googled it, tried to figure out if there's a connection. There's not. So it's just pure Mandela effect. I could have sworn, I would have bet my life before I watched this movie again, that Jared Leto had a small role and that 30 Seconds to Mars had a song on the soundtrack.
Oh my God.
And I thought when you're hearing like the action music and there's like drums and stuff, I was like, that's 30 Seconds to Mars. And I know for a fact that this creepy guy's Jared Leto. He looks just like Jared Leto.
Oh my God. I know exactly who you're talking about though, because I thought it was Adam Driver. And I'm like,
no. I thought Ben Foster was Jared Leto.
Oh, not the vampire. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And I thought that Adam Driver was that vampire too. I actually IMDb'd to be like, is this Adam Driver? Because that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I had that moment where I'm like, this could be a very young Adam Driver with makeup on. Like, you know, we don't see him as like a human, you know. Anyway.
And I don't know, maybe all my Ben Foster love comes from like, I don't know, Chris or Mike, if you guys ever watched Alpha Dog, which is a
how dare you?
Constant rotation movie. It's one of Exilia's favorite movies, so we watch
I saw it in theaters, Rowan.
All the time. But just the image Amanda of Ben Seyfried. Foster straining and shitting on the drug dealer's carpet when they break into his house in that movie, where I'm just like, you know, he's basically a character out of American History X, just placed in Alpha Dog, and it's just really bizarre. But I've always been a fan of him. Anyway, we got on tangent. Mike, favorite scene, favorite kill?
Oh, listen, I'm still reeling from the fact that like this is now rapidly becoming a different movie than what I thought it was when I started talking about it. I'm realizing I don't know it at all. It's like finding out somebody that you love is somebody totally different. Okay, so
that got a little upsetting. That got a little triggering quick.
Okay, let me reel myself back in now. My favorite scene. I had a lot of favorite scenes, but I think the one that like upset me the most, maybe, which is a good thing because I don't know, I just thought it was really effective, was it's right before the like full on like massacre of everyone in the town, but it's that scene where they like do like a home invasion, you know, and they steal the woman out of the window and then drag her under. I just thought that was so fucking scary because home invasion movies are like my worst nightmare. So to me, this was like, oh my God, it's these really scary looking vampires and it's a home invasion and it's out in this like snowy Alaskan, you know, remote middle of nowhere. I just thought that scene was so well done and it just scared the fucking shit out of me. I was watching it in the middle of the day and I was just like, ugh, like getting creeps. But yeah. And I guess it's also my favorite kill because, you know, I guess they've died in. Am I wrong? Yes, they both died.
Eventually,
I think so.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I don't even know if they had names. I don't even know if they were in the movie before that. It's just cuts to that scene and she gets pulled out the window and I'm like, fuck.
I think it's the same people who they lose their sled dogs.
Yeah.
I yes, so, you're right. Because they cut to it like in their house as if we should know who they are, and I'm looking at it going, they don't really look familiar.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it doesn't really make that huge of a difference to it, but like I still found it, even though they were strangers to me, I still found it very effective.
Well, and I was gonna say that's kind of one of the issues I had, I think, with kind of the world building and character development of this is I thought they did a terrible job at like introducing a lot of these townspeople because I was like, so many of them like look alike. We don't really.
Well, they're all just bundled up for the winter, right? Like
yeah, and it's like the names, like even if they said them, I don't know. I didn't remember them, so I was just kind of like, all right, like literally this whole town is just cannon fodder for these vampires.
Wow.
Because other than like maybe 4 people, like you don't focus on like who these people are, like have any sympathy for them. Like I'm thinking about that scene you're talking about, where they rip the woman out of the window. Like, there's like some sort of drama going on there beforehand. Like she's crying, he's got a gun, and they're arguing about something, and he's all upset, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why? I mean, I guess because the dogs are dead, but it sounded to me like they were talking about something else, and.
No.
And then I was just like, I have no idea. I feel like, all these town people's issues we just don't care about. It's like the Alzheimer's dad that's just like throwing on you for 5 minutes, and then it's like, don't worry about it because we're just gonna kill him.
Well, you knew that he wasn't long for this world.
Yeah.
for a couple of reasons, I guess. But that's the sort of the thing about this movie. That's why I said it kind of feels like I don't know what the graphic novel is like, but these all seem like vignettes that would be more at home in a graphic novel, or if not a comic series where maybe everyone gets their own issue or something.
Yeah.
They're all interesting enough, and they're interesting enough characters with interesting situations around this story of the vampire invasion in this town. But yeah, everyone gets like, half a scene, and maybe it's like they were trying to stay too true to the graphic novel, like, we need to have this character in because they were a big part of the graphic novel, but that's just splitting the baby, I think, at that point.
It's true. Yeah, it seems kind of like the whole setup was just an excuse, like you said, to kind of focus on the like issues of every person, but it's just like literally a page. Page in the graphic novel.
I feel like just in a whole with the development of the characters and the scripting, like it just kind of felt like a little undercooked, which I do know I had read like this actually got pushed up like a year. Like they thought they were going to have an extra year to work on this movie, and they're like, oh no, you're going in like 6 weeks to start shooting this. So it was like a super rush to get it all ready and prepped. And
do you know why?
I have no idea why. I would suspect that because I know this was shopped around quite a bit. Like Steve Niles originally pitched this as a movie before it was a graphic novel. No one bid on it. He pitched it as a comic book. IDW picked it up. And then once it came out, like it was a pretty big success as a comic book. And then there was like a bidding war on it for movie rights.
So I have a theory. I've done no research on this at all.
Those are our favorite kind, so.
I do remember that when this movie like came out, because the vampires are so like, animalistic, maybe too animalistic for my liking, and basically fast zombies, largely, smart zombies. I remember that there was like, people were like, see, vampires aren't sexy, because this came out between like the first 2 Twilight novels and the Twilight movie. So the Twilight movie was in 2008, so maybe they didn't want to go up against that. So maybe they brought it up ahead of time. But I for some reason I feel like I remember people discussing 30 Days of Night as a counterpoint to Twilight, which had become a phenomenon just in literature at that point.
Which is super interesting because after David Slade directed this, he ended up directing Twilight Eclipse, like one of the sequel movies.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, David Slade, I was looking, like, very interesting filmography. I didn't realize he was the guy that directed Hard Candy. That was his first film.
Yeah, that's such a good movie.
Yeah, which I'm
also
like
the
massive
Eclipse
fan.
soundtrack absolutely slaps. I just have to throw that in there.
I mean, I don't think I've ever... Is that the second movie? I don't know.
I think it's the third.
I think I only saw the
first.
first.
The second, right?
Is it?
It
I
might
don't
be
know.
the second.
Nope, it's the third. You were right.
Okay, yeah.
Mike with the Twilight knowledge. I think I only saw the first and
I work
second
in
one.
books. This is the knowledge that you just pick up by osmosis.
The first, as we always say, like multiple episodes, the first Twilight movie actually slaps. It's actually pretty good. The soundtrack alone is worth it. Yeah, okay. I totally forgot. I also have to do my favorite scene, favorite kill.
Girl.
I know.
Yeah, I was wondering if I missed it or
No,
if you got into it.
No, this is just us.
So, just because I know Colton will be listening to this episode, I saw the shade that you texted Colton. My favorite scene isn't the dogs being killed. If you listen to the right episodes, Chris, but there's a common theme that I myself am a big fan of kids and dogs being killed. Kids, because I think that's kind of scary. Dogs, because I think dogs are overrated. So as long as you don't kill cats, I'm okay.
Dogs are overrated. I have two things I can say about that. One is I saw The Conjuring in the theater with like a very full crowd, and if you can make a dog adorable, you can make a dog adorable very quickly, and then if you kill the dog, everyone is like, "Oh, we're wrapped." Like everyone was like squirming around, talking shit in the Conjuring movie, and then the dog came on screen, and the whole theater was like, "Oh my god, puppy!" And then like 2 scenes later, the puppy's dead, and everyone was like, "All right, we have to watch this movie now. Who killed the puppy?" So it's a good tool of a filmmaker there. Also, like, yeah, I dogs killing in movies. For some reason, I used to be a big fan. Well, I guess I am to some extent today. A big fan of the original Mission Impossible movie. And I don't know if this is in the movie, but it's certainly in the novelization for the movie. So it was like in the screenplay, but there's a scene where all the CIA agents come in trying to bust Tom Cruise as he's like hacking the mainframe or whatever. And it's a scene where they're in the like apartment building and they're going up the spiral staircase. I don't know if you remember. And like, they're like, "Oh, he's not here." And then there's like a dog barking, and like one of the guys is like, "Someone shut up that dog," or something.
Oh my god.
And it's just supposed to like add another extra layer. I think you might even hear the dog in shot or something. Extra layer of villainy.
All that reminds me of is that like Dave Chappelle skit. It was like if drug dealers were dealt with like white collar criminals, and white collar criminals will, and they like break in the white collar criminals. They're like, "Shut that dog up," and they like shotgun blast the dog, and yeah. But yeah, so my favorite scene and favorite kill was the vampire little girl. Little girl monsters like creep me out anyway. I thought it was kind of interesting. I didn't notice, like I had to freeze it, then rewind it. Like she also had like weird tattoos on her arm. So I was like, not only is this like a little girl vampire, but obviously like has existed for a bit or something. Because at first I thought she was from the town. But, like, why does she have these, like, tattoos going on? I don't know.
Well, yeah, they explicitly say, like, "Does anyone recognize her now that we've killed her?" And they're like, "No, we've never seen her before."
But yeah, I was all about it. Chop that kid's head off. Like,
I was gonna say, now that she's been split in two with an axe, like...
No, that was too edgelord for me, and I don't know, maybe in 2007 it hit different, but I feel like we've just seen too many like, it's the creepy little. There's a little girl too. Oh my god! And also like, are we playing by like Interview with the Vampire rules? Like, has she been a girl for 300 years or something?
Yeah, exactly. What's her backstory?
Because if so, if she's like getting tattoos and stuff and she's riding around on the ghost freighter for hundreds of years, like, why is she still like, "I'm done playing with this one"? Like, I don't know, that was a little cringe to me.
Yeah, that line was cringe. I'll be honest, like that was my favorite kill, favorite scene. I'll get into it more, but there wasn't very many.
That's why I
those.
assumed. I mean, I know they obviously they went out of their way to say, "Does anybody recognize her?" to show that like clearly there's 300 people in this town, like, or 500, whatever. Like they know each other. But also, I was like, why is she speaking English when all the other vampires don't?
They all speak English too. The language rules are a little. It's kind of like Avatar, where they all speak Na'vi to each other, but sometimes they can speak English to the humans.
Yeah.
I've never seen Avatar, so
What?
Just to blow your mind. Yeah.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? You didn't even catch the 3D re-release a couple months ago?
I don't get the hype. I don't see the
Well, because you haven't fucking seen it.
I'm gonna have to say that unfortunately I'm in the same boat as Ro. I've never seen it.
Do they not have 3D in Canada?
If it was playing in 3D here, I definitely purposely skipped it. I will say I kind of feel like I have to watch it now because I feel like number 2 is going to be such a big event that I'm like going to be forced to have to go. So be one with
it's
pop
great.
culture.
I don't know. I'm an Avatar fan.
I mean, I'm a huge James Cameron fan, so I should give him a chance.
Yeah,
I know. I grew up loving all of his movies. I don't know why that one just turned me off and I did not want to see it. But like, I think just because everybody else was saying to me, like, you need to see this. And I'm like, do I though?
You had the contrarian thing. I mean, it's
100%.
James Cameron, he's always had a little bit of a corny side to him. And so if you go in not like with your defenses up, you'll have enough reasons to be like, oh, this Avatar movie's corny and hippie. But if you just go into it with an open mind, you will cry. So
okay, well, see, now I feel like enough time has passed that I could watch it like and truly set aside all of my various hang-ups, you know?
Yeah. It's sad that you missed out on it in 3D, though, because it really is phenomenal in 3D. But hey, you can see the new one in 3D.
I think Colton's the only one of us that has seen it like multiple times in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Big Avatar fan going on in Colton's world.
Like I said, I was only here to talk to Colton. He's the only one who will get my analogies.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris. Now, I did want to talk about like an alternate universe that 30 Days of Night could exist. I was reading that David was not the first director attached to this, but producer Sam Raimi was originally supposed to direct it for like a year of the production. He was supposed to be the director. So I just thought that was kind of a interesting fact. I was kind of curious how different this would be as a Sam Raimi vehicle. You know, I wonder if it would have like had like some more. I just can't see him doing something like this without like a little bit of comedic beats.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like a little more slapsticky. I mean, he definitely something like, you know, Drag Me to Hell that's a little more like mean-spirited he can do, but even that has kind of its, you know, dark comedic undertones of hilarity. God, yes. So, yeah, I was just curious, you know, what you guys think this would look like as a Sam Raimi movie. You get a Bruce Campbell cameo, that's for sure.
I mean, obviously. You know, it would be Bruce Campbell getting, you know, his head split open with an axe.
I feel like the Mark Boone Jr. role would have just been Bruce Campbell, just the outcast of the town, which I'm always happy to see Mark Jr.
Yeah, he could have done a lot with that.
It's hard to say, but I think he would have had a much cooler approach to the action in this movie, because it's really like it's a deliberate stylistic choice, but whenever there's vampire action, it's all happening so quickly, and they use like the high shutter speeds, so there's like it's all very staccato. There's no motion blur. That's why it kind of I feel like they're trying to recreate the feel of a graphic novel, because when you see the thing like jumping on the car, like there's no blur. It feels like a very quick series of comic frames. And I kind of like that, but you can't really tell what's going on most of the time. It's all very frenzied, so I feel like there'd be a lot more care, and you'd be able to follow the action and feel a lot cooler if Sam Raimi were involved.
Huh, that's interesting, because I never thought about it. Like, I never thought about it using like the language of film to replicate the language of the graphic novel, which I should have, because it was a graphic novel. I was watching it and thinking that very basically that they're kind of trying to like riff on the same stylistic choices as like Dawn of the Dead, because you know it was just like a few years later. Yeah, so I was watching it and I was very much like the Dawn of the Dead remake. I mean, the So I was like looking at this going like, this is totally Zack Snyder zombie movie. But
I'm
just
giving
like
him
transplanted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly giving him some benefit of the doubt, but I've never looked at the graphic novel. Maybe I should get it from the library and check it out now. But like seeing the compositions in this movie, I was like, oh, that looks like that's a really cool image from a graphic novel.
Yeah.
And even like sort of, I could just see it, like the little slice of life stuff when they're like cooking, the woman's like cooking on the stove before she gets got. And I'm like, I can see this as like comic frames, and it all kind of makes more sense to me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was going to say like the height, I call it the height, kind of, the first half when the vampires start attacking, but like you said, like where we really get like people are just getting offed, like, and everything's super fast. Like I actually like physically felt like I was getting a headache because I was just like, which never happens. Like it's the first time I've ever felt that watching any movie. And I don't know, like maybe it's just the time I was watching it or something, but like I was like, everything's so fast. I can't focus on anything. Like you said, like I can't see what's going on. I know people are screaming, people are dying, but everything's just happening so fast. And to me, like, I thought the way more effective shot in this was that gorgeous kind of like helicopter down view where it's real slow and it's just like you just kind of
blood stains
and you can see people off to the side like running and stuff, but it's like almost the middle of the shot is just still and it's just like really eerie. And to me, I was just like, if I'm trying to build a feeling of this, like, isolated Alaskan town, that is how I'd want it to feel with the violence. Is even though all this craziness is going on, you still have, like, this stillness, this isolation of the town. And, like, yeah, I thought that was, like, a way more effective thing than what most of the movie brought us.
Yeah, stylistically, I thought this movie was pretty good, pretty great. The plotting, the characters, they're all hit or miss, but I thought that there was at least a mood and an aesthetic, and shot to shot, scene to scene, everything looked pretty cool, and good for them. I don't know, but my standards are falling just because of how they're making action movies and horror movies these days. It's like if you used a light, I'm like, damn, look at the cinematography.
All of my notes were lighting. They used lighting because it's so funny because when we were watching Christine. Well, I rewatched this yesterday, and we watched Christine Friday night, and we were sitting down watching Christine and just talking about, like, oh my god, back in the 80s, they used to light movies, you know what I mean? And then when I watched this, I was like, I get the kind of, like, Terminator 2-esque, like, blue, monochrome, cold. It's supposed to be, like, cold in every sense of the word, but I was like, it's the lighting is just like so well done. I was thinking about, like, when I was watching it, I was kind of like picturing in my head what this movie would look like if they made it today, and I could just picture like the just shitty lighting and the like, just it would look so gross. And I feel like it kind of hit at that perfect time because it was right before the aesthetic of movies started kind of like falling and tumbling. So I really, the visuals, the lighting was just everything to me. Everything. And the like grain of the film, like, just looked so good. I mean, there were obviously moments when it fell apart and, it was shaky cameras and very like of its time. But yeah, I was like, I feel like this is like the last time when they like were lighting movies even semi-decently.
I was going to say look cold, but probably pretty fucking hot because I was reading that, they shot this in like June. Yeah, this was like entirely in a shot like in a sound stage.
Oh,
the
no
town
way. Okay.
was built in a sound.
Wow.
No real snow. It's all fake snow.
I figured it was probably fake snow.
Yeah, I think it was salt. They said like it was just like clumps of salt.
There's some scenes where it has. I don't know. There's some scenes with like snow plows where it looks pretty real.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I figured they must have got shots like somewhere with like in the winter or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, I will say one scene that did have me laughing pretty hard was when like the blizzard or whatever hits and all that 2007 like CGI fog hits, which I was like, oh, like this is a rough one. 2007. What were you doing? I was just like, man, this like, because I did like the lighting, like you said, Mike, and stuff, the overall look of the movie. And just, yeah, I was like, I could have done without the fog. I was gonna say too, I had on my notes, like, I also had a little issue with not the pacing of the film, but the pacing of the time going on in the story, because it's this 30
I found
days
it
a
very
night,
jarring.
and I thought it's like kind of one night, and then next thing you know, they're like, oh, it's been
day 18.
Day 18, and I'm thinking like none of these people have drank anything, they haven't ate anything.
Like, where are their shit buckets? You know, like, I need this addressed.
And also, like, all the power's been cut off to the whole town. Everyone should be freezing.
Yeah,
I don't know. This is kind of weird. Like, it doesn't. Yeah, it ends on day 30 for kind of an arbitrary reason, which is, I guess, so they can have the. I mean, that's the resolution, because the crisis goes on, and the only reason the crisis ends is because the sun comes up. The heroes don't do anything.
Yeah,
no.
And see, that was kind of where I kind of thought that I was like, like, I wonder if they had a better ending, if this would have been more effective of, like, this all going on, like, the first day of night, and then, like, even if it's a depressing, the town gets obliterated, vampires move on, then, like, that'd be whatever, and it'd be dark, and I don't know, it wouldn't matter anyway. I mean, they ended up doing a sequel to this movie, so...
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
I do own it, because I owned the Blu-ray of this. I bought it forever ago, and this was my first time opening it. And
it's a twin pack?
No, sadly I have two separate.
No, Ro just has
Blu-rays.
no self-control, and if he buys the first movie and there's 7, he's gonna buy the other 6.
It's true. Well, and I was also interested, I did, what I do remember from browsing on the Wikipedia page, I think there's, like, 2 prequel, like, web series on this, like, early, I think one was a web series, one was a television show that are, like, prequels.
There's not much that goes on before the events of this movie that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I don't need to see Jared Leto going around stealing people's cell phones.
Yeah, and I don't know if I don't know if I've ever even seen the sequel. It was a straight to DVD sequel. Yeah. So, like, it didn't get a theater release, anything, which I'm kind of surprised about, because, I mean, this made, like, over double its budget back. Like, this movie, I think, made, like, $76 million. So, I mean, it didn't do too bad.
So, Rowan, you live in St. John's, right?
No, Mike does.
Oh, Mike does. Okay.
I do.
Is it a secret, or where do you live, Rowan?
Oh, no. I live in Wolfville in Nova Scotia.
Oh, okay. So, I mean,
it's no secret.
All right. So Mike, I'm wondering, like, because St. John's is fairly remote, and I imagine you have a lot of seasonal elements to life there. Do you relate to anything you see in this film?
I was watching it, and I'm like, we had more snow and weather than this in 3 days last year. Like, yeah. Literally, most winters, your house is buried up, like, you only see out half the window. You know, you're digging out your driveway, and there's about 6 feet of straight snow. You know, and it's like, you just go everywhere. It's the same thing. You leave your house, and you're completely bundled, head to toe. Anybody who lives anywhere that isn't on, like, one of the main roads, like, if you live kind of just outside of town or anything, you need to have, like, a plow on your truck. You also always drive a pickup truck. Everything about this sort of, like, rang true to me. I was like, this is a soundstage. Like, the snow did look a little bit, it was too clean. Mm-hmm. Snow gets very dirty, I will say. The snow in a, like, yeah, it gets really, really gross and dirty when you have a lot of it. Like, it's just brown everywhere. By March, it's still there, but it's just rocks and mud just all over the place. So you get right at the top of, like, a 6-foot mountain of snow. It's like a snow cap, because the bottom part of the snow is just all brown and gross and dirty, and then the top is clean. So it almost looks like a snow cap on a mountain. Except that the mountain is snow.
Mm-hmm.
It did, when I was watching this, it did, make me think of my time. And
yeah, you've spent so many years here. You know, it's literally 6 months out of the year. And then you get 2 months of summer and a couple of months of rain.
Once this podcast, gets on like Joe Rogan levels, Mike will work on his book that'll be a spiritual sequel just called 30 Days of Life, and it will be all about all of the snow.
Yeah, I mean, because the unique thing here in this movie is just the perpetual darkness, but it was kind of hard to understand. I don't know what life is like in a place like Barrow, Alaska, which is a real place. But it's just like, so it's night for 30 days. And that means everybody leaves. Like I don't know. It doesn't seem like a good enough reason for everybody to leave if you've been living up there for as long as you have. I don't know. It's not like extreme weather. It's just darkness.
No, it's just dark. It's funny. That part really bothered me. I'm like, really? It's literally a month of darkness. Like, to me, that's just winter anyway. You only have like 4 hours of daylight, so
right.
There's 6 months of the year here where I'm like, I go to work and it's still dark out, and when I leave to go home, it's dark out. I don't ever see the daylight. I'm like, how can you not live like this? Like, literally, if you're there for a couple of years, you got your fucking routine,
Mm-hmm.
You order your food or do whatever, you get everything prepped like a month ahead of time, and you're gold.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was kind of my issue with like the beginning of the film, especially where, Josh Hartnett, what was it? Evan, I think was his character's name.
It's Eben with a B.
Evan. Oh, fancy.
Everything I thought about this was just a lie.
Yeah, so Eben.
Yeah, that was rough for me to find that too.
Oh, geez, yeah, Eben. But like Stella getting stuck there, and I just kept thinking, I'm like, why don't you drove here, why don't you just get someone to drive you out? Like, I didn't really understand the shutdown. There seemed to be roads. Like, do the roads just stop? Like, they just stop making roads?
Are they need to think about the small business. How many restaurants go under because they have to close for 30 days?
They are not supporting local.
Stella really frustrated me this whole time. Stella and Eben, just because that was like another undercooked, I felt, like, story idea. Like, obviously they're kind of separated, but it didn't seem like they were divorced.
Yeah.
Even the stuff like I read, like the plot synopsises and stuff, claims they're still married.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I just didn't get it. Like, we never got any real payoff, I felt, about like that story, about like what happened, or, just why they hated each other. I mean, really, the only reason they reconciled was so that they could fight vampires, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and there was clearly something, because when she got stuck there, and she was in the truck with that guy, he like immediately looked at her and said, like, where are you going to stay? Right? So clearly, it was obvious that she was not going to stay with her husband. And it's like, I need the tea. Spill the fucking tea. Like,
right, because it's like, I guess they reconcile because they have to, but there's not really any understanding of what their issue was or how she comes to see him in a new light.
Yeah.
Other than she's just turned on by his heroics that happened in the course of the movie, which mostly consists of him like there's at least like 3 scenes where like characters we've never seen before are arguing or about to hurt each other or kill each other, and then you hear someone be like, "Nuh-uh, not in my town," and then as Josh Hartnett just came in the door at the right time or shot somebody at the right time. He just comes in the door like that.
I love when we're like the whole arc of when we're being introduced to Eben. I love like him just giving the guy the ticket, and he's like, "Oh, I just want to make sure he feels part of the town, so I'm just gonna like give this absorbent ticket to a guy that like lives in a shack outside of town that he probably can't afford."
He probably like ice fishes to keep his power on, like,
just so he knows we love him. Let's make sure he's poor.
You know what? Josh Hartnett, I thought, was good in the role. And I feel like I've talked to cops who are like him, and just like sort of like boyish and dumb but friendly, and I don't know. He hit the right notes for me in his
and
role.
He was not playing like the kind of typical Josh Hartnett character, which was nice. He got a little bit of range to him.
Yeah,
he's not just your heartthrob. He's also your action hero and your moody cop who has, domestic issues that they only ever hint at and never actually delve into.
I mean, this movie, I would say, is at least as much of a Western as a horror movie.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's just
it gave me like John Carpenter
Western
vibes.
Yeah.
Man, and not just because I watched a John Carpenter movie the night before.
John Carpenter would have loved to make this movie.
Yeah, I think this is what John Carpenter's vampires could have been, but we won't go there.
Well, and I kind of thought that there had to be some influence, because I can't remember his name, but like the other cop that like we find out killed his family or whatever, which like also totally undercooked. They're just like, oh, he killed his family, and this guy just kind of shows up in the middle of the movie. But the entire time I was like, whoa, this guy looks like the character from The Thing. Like he's got the jacket on and the big beard going.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, like this had to be like a nod to Kurt Russell or something. Just to be like, yeah, we see you, John Carpenter. We see you. But I will say, I did want to say, Chris, I agree with the Josh Hartnett as the cop. Also being from a small town where we're like in a town where I'm from, like Canada has the RCMP, which is all over Canada. But like we're a town that has also a town police force. Not many of them in Nova Scotia have that anymore. But this is like guys, just working in, the type of job I do and the type of job Exilia does. Like we interact with cops all the time with our job, and this is kind of how they are. Like, I always say they're not really like your stereotypical cops, because they're usually like small town guys. They know everybody. They know everybody's business. They're usually like pretty slow to punish people because they know them. So they're just like, oh yeah, like, we'll make sure you're safe and everything. And I won't necessarily report that. So I did think like the small town vibes are here, which usually a lot of horror movies can't necessarily pull off believably.
That's the thing I like about this movie, and I think why it kind of stuck with me for all these years, and why I was curious to go back and watch it, because I just remember the atmosphere, and it does the atmosphere right, and it really feels like a place at the end of the earth. And I mean, I live in Michigan, and so we don't really have, we're at a much lower latitude or a higher latitude than you guys. But like, there's places up in our Upper Peninsula that are, very seasonal. And I've always wondered, like, what would it be like to live here, and just, what happens in the winter when it's not 30 days a night, but it's, a couple hours of sunlight every winter. And there's just season, like Marquette is a college town in the Upper Peninsula. Everyone goes home for the winter, and it's like, what's that like? What would it like to be in the diner?
Yeah. Maybe Chris, you take a little vacation in the Barrows and get that 30 days a night in. Just see what it's like.
Maybe.
So I visit that soundstage.
Well,
just go camp out.
I've been researching to see like what they have up there, and I guess tourism is one of their industries, but it doesn't sound like there's much up there. It sounds like it's it's basically just sort of a pit stop for the oil industry.
I would imagine there's some sort of brass statue of Josh Hartnett in the town.
Well, he didn't do a good job of saving the town, so like Barrow gets completely destroyed in this movie. Basically.
Yeah, I'm like, what were we down to? Maybe half a dozen at the end of the movie left?
Yeah. And they burned down the town to hide the evidence, because
true.
You might not have heard this if you didn't have the subtitles.
I literally had no idea what was happening. I'm like, fuck, I'm just like going along, like rolling with it,
One of the fun ideas in the movie is the lead vampire says, hey, it took us centuries to like convince people that we were just like imaginary. Okay. Like we've been working on this project of denying our existence for a long time. So now that we've had our rampage, we have to hide all the evidence so no one suspects it was actually vampires.
See, yeah, and I didn't understand what they were doing until, they had the heroes are going to explicate like, oh my God, they're doing this, which was really just reiterating, I guess, sort of what they were talking about.
Yeah, because it's like Josh Hartnett's like, they're going to burn down the town. No one will know.
No one's going to know. Yeah. Yeah, and I was like, oh, damn, you're right. Like, you're smart, you know?
They wrote that in because they knew, like, you know, they knew like 15 years later some schmuck was going to illegally stream it on the internet and there'd be no subtitle. And they're like,
Well, that's the
"We gotta
thing.
explain
Or
it."
like, or they like screened it for audiences one way and they were like, we don't understand why. And so like, all right, we have to put in another scene of exposition. That's why we had everyone talking the clicky clacky tongue. So now we can add the lines that say exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I know, like, so I'll say my last two notes I had on it was, first, I thought it was kind of weird because, you know, like I said, I don't think I'd seen this since it came out, and I'd always remembered it as kind of like this blood fest, like this super gory, visceral, animalistic vampire movie. And although there is a lot of blood, I don't know about you guys, but I also felt like there wasn't that much blood. Like I think with the cuts and everything, I just like, other than a couple neck biting scenes, I think my nostalgia of this was a little more like visceral than it actually ended up being for me.
Did we watch the same movie?
I mean,
like, there's people getting their heads chopped off. Like,
I'm
take a good
psychopath,
6
man.
whacks. There's like arms flying off. There's children getting their heads split open. Like,
Yeah, let me try to moderate this because you're
Okay.
both right. There's
Colton's
a lot
so
of gore
proud right now.
There's a lot of gore and violence. There is a lot, and especially, I mean, the vampirism maybe not, but when they get the axe involved, it's pretty gnarly. But it is so frenetically paced and cut that it doesn't you don't really feel it for the most part.
yeah,
So
it doesn't
really
linger.
feel
You're
gore.
right.
Yeah,
you're right,
maybe
yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, like you're not like basking in it or like left to think about it. It's just like that happened. Now we're cutting to something else immediately.
Yeah.
Or-
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
It's kind of like some of the bad Saw traps, or like the beginning of the Saw trap, where like they wake up and the camera's like, whoa, or like, you know, it's like, all right, we're all gonna chop pieces of our body off, and maybe you see a couple of them that are like, ooh, that's nasty, but the rest of it's just like, whoa,
Yeah.
it's kind of like that.
and then my last
fair,
note
that's fair.
was, for me personally, I thought it was a kind of lame ending. I was like, man, this is just, if we could end on just meh. I just felt that's how it ended. I mean, I thought the whole Josh Hartnett melting or like burning in the sun, it didn't look great. But also, I was just kind of like, it's kind of what I talked about with the just, you know, the building of those characters. Like, I get, like, they kind of reconciled and she's now losing the, you know, the love of her life yet again, but I don't know, it just didn't pay off because I had no connection to it. I was like, all right, cool, like, you guys made up for 14 days, and now...
Yeah, the character work sucks, and it's really, you don't feel it in those last moments. The ending of the movie does fall pretty flat, and so it's like, although I don't know, when I watched it, I remember thinking it was really cool that Josh Hartnett turned himself into a vampire.
Yeah.
That's what he does. So that's what he does. If anyone hasn't watched the movie, he takes a vial of vampire blood and injects himself because he realized he has to fight fire with fire, and he can only take on the vampires if he becomes a vampire. So he goes off to fight the mob of vampires with his new vampire powers that are like, I mean, he needed to give it more time, but he didn't have more time because he was trying to save what's-her-face from like the burning car or whatever. But like... So he's he's like, all right, I'm a vampire. I'm going to fight you with my vampire powers. He gets his ass kicked. Like, the lead vampire just slaps the shit out of him. And there's like 20 other vampires there that like don't fight him or whatever. Like, it would have been cool to have it. Maybe they ran out of money, but like have an action scene where he's like he's Neo and he's fighting 20 vampires with vampire powers.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. Yeah.
Right, because you think he's got like his eyes are all black now, and you're like, oh, let's see what this guy can do. Well, no, he just basically gets his ass kicked, and then he kills the lead vampire kind of on a fluke, and then everyone else is like, well, we don't really know what to do. Like, they should have killed him at least, but especially because he's a vampire and they're trying to eliminate all evidence that there's vampires on the scene. So they should have, I guess they leave because the sun's starting to come out. It's day 30. So that's why they back off. I don't know, but it's really kind of unclear how he ends the vampire threat by killing this one vampire.
Yeah.
Because there's 20 more that would have just killed him in a normal situation.
Swarm. Just like literally fucking swarm him. Like,
I love that his eyes turned black, and all I could think about was like, I was like, they definitely pulled this out of the Underworld playbook. I was like, this guy looks like he should be part of the Underworld universe.
They were flipping the pages of a lot of playbooks there, Ro.
Yeah.
Which is not a total drag. I do appreciate, the inspiration.
But then they go out to the cliff to watch the sunrise because he doesn't want to live as a vampire, so he's gonna die in the sunlight holding on to Bae. And yeah, it doesn't look. You gotta have him turn to dust in her arms. You gotta. Why? And instead he just like becomes ashen, and then it's like it ends. I'm like, no, you have to have the final image. And I would bet you $500 this is the last image of the graphic novel. Her holding him, and then she's holding a coat, and there's a dust blowing away from her in the wind.
So I have a theory about this. See, what I thought is I was like, I don't know if there's ever been such a bold move made to be like, if this makes a shit ton of money, Hartnett's coming back for a sequel. Because I was like, we see like the little bits, but like not like a chunk of his head leaves. So I was like, then they could, open and be like, all the ash blew off of him and he's normal again, part 2. Or like,
that's cynical.
He's some hybrid. But I was like, that's why they cut it. Because they obviously wanted to make another movie. They did a direct-to-video sequel, even though, like I said, it had nothing to do with like this story, from my understanding. But I know he's not in it.
Is there a way to can we get in contact with Josh Hartnett? What's he doing these days?
Yeah, I mean,
he's only 44. Josh Hartnett's only 44 years old.
Yeah, 44 years young. I think he's like he's in a movie coming out soon. Is he in like Oppenheimer or something? He's in like something big coming out.
Oh, I don't know. Everybody's in Oppenheimer.
Well, yeah, that's very true.
Is this bitch not on Twitter? Like, what? I was literally about to tweet at Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, like, listen, we want to talk to you about this movie. What's the deal?
I have questions. Here's my phone number.
All right, listen, I enjoyed Josh Hartnett in this movie, but I think there's one thing you could do to take this movie from like a 2 or 3 star movie to a 4 or 5 star movie, and that would be replace him with Tom Cruise.
I like it. Tom Cruise revisiting the vampire lore.
Yeah. I think all the stuff at the end of the movie works a lot better if it's Tom Cruise.
And can we just somehow make it all a Scientology allegory? Maybe?
Sure.
I don't know. We can rework. We can tweak the script just a little bit.
I like it. Maybe some more frilly shirts for that interview with the vampire in.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys have any other points you wanted to bring up about this lovely film?
No, but if someone can explain why I would have bet my life that Jared Leto and 30 Seconds to Mars were associated with this movie, I'd appreciate it. They can get in contact with us and let us know.
Someone needs to create like a trailer or something for this for you that just has like 30 Seconds to Mars. And like Jared Leto's head superimposed in it.
It might just be the numeral 30.
The 30, yeah.
I very well could be.
Okay, so I'm going to interject and interrupt you just because I want to say the final thing I wrote was that I wish the women in this movie had more to do. That really pissed me off. Nobody in this movie really had much to do, but I was just so irritated that there was like all these women, like my girl Roxanne from Hex was in this, and she was just like hiding out in an attic for the most of the movie, and I'm like,
to be fair, no one in this movie had that much to do.
and I that's the other part of that point, but I'm just like, god damn, like they were all so wasted.
Yeah,
because I love Melissa George too. So,
yeah, I will say I did notice that, like, I mean, like you said, Chris, pretty much no one had anything to do. No one was really, like, useful in this movie. But this movie, I don't know, Mike, like, maybe it is kind of a feminist tale where, I mean, all the men kind of seem like they think they're doing something or trying
And
to do
they're
something,
useless.
and then they all just fail miserably and just die.
I love that that's how low the bar is, that's the feminist take of this movie.
It's rough. I mean, I love hunting for themes in movies, even movies that don't have them deliberately. I love poking around, and like I can't pull a theme out of this. This is like a series of vignettes, but every vignette is only half a vignette, and they're all slammed together, and then that's the movie.
It's like you're making your own hamburger patty.
Yeah,
but with like sheets of paper. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's land the plane on this one, and we'll get into rating it. If you're new to the show, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Chris, you're the guest. I want to know what you'd rate it, but I also know on your guys' show you do the cue it, view it, or screw it. I want to know both ratings. So,
well, my show's rating is easy. It's a cue it for me. That means it's not great, but it's not terrible. On your scale, it's a little more complicated.
That's right.
It's harder to straddle. So I'll give it a yay, because I think there's enough going on in this movie that's interesting or distinct. I really like the atmosphere. I like Josh Hartnett, even though I wish it had been Tom Cruise. I like some of the stuff they did, like with the grow lights fighting the vampires, and there's just the imagery, like we talked about, that first shot of the ship coming in, very ominous, and just like it's always going to be the movie that I think of when I think of what life is like in an extreme northern part of the world in wintertime, and I think that's valuable. So if the plot is pretty lame, the characters are pretty lame, the action isn't really my cup of tea, the take on vampires frankly isn't my cup of tea, but there's enough atmosphere and interesting stuff in this movie that I can't condemn it. So I'll give it a yay. How about you, Rowan?
So I'm going to give it an okay. Kind of all the points that you liked it, I also liked it. I thought they nailed the small town vibe. And just the vibe in general of the movie. Like, I like the color grading. I like the look. I mean, I guess it's just the age I was when this came out. Like, I vibe with this. I know there's also a lot of hate on the other side of younger and older people that, hate this 2000s color grading, especially in horror movies, of like the bluish and the grayish, but it's home for me, so I do enjoy it. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I checked my phone a couple times while I was watching this, and I was just kind of like, yeah, okay. And I think the nostalgia for it was bigger than the actual product was, and I don't know if this is something I'll revisit again very soon. This is a real scathing review. I don't even know if I would upgrade this to 4K if it came out. Who are we kidding?
Oh my god.
Who are we kidding? I would do it, guys. I'd spend the money because I'm a sucker like that. But yeah, I'll give it an okay, like, and a pretty strong okay. It's not a weak one. Like, I think if this
grading is okay.
Yeah, I'm grading the okay. Mike, how about you?
I will also give it a yay. I do see like a really good movie in there. And like we said, there were just so many missed opportunities that it really keeps it from like kind of like catapulting up to that next tier. But also I did find it like aesthetically pleasing, and I actually found it really scary. Now I'm realizing that most of that was due to the fact that they were just saying words, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know what they're saying, like, this is really fucking creepy. Now apparently it's all cringelord shit, so I probably wouldn't have found it nearly as scary if I had seen a proper copy of this movie. But I actually did, like, I found it really creepy and tense in a lot of moments, and I found the vampires kind of scary, but again, it's because I didn't hear half of what they were saying, so that's an issue. But yeah, like, I mean, there was a lot of missed opportunities, so it could have been a lot better. But I don't know, it was a really good vampire movie to me. It was sort of, and I kept thinking of Snyder's Dawn of the Dead, but not in a like negative way, because I really love that movie and it reminded me of that. So I kind of was looking at this as like a vampire companion. to Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. And I just totally understand, like I get, like you were saying about this remote small town, like this, it did ring true. I thought there was, and there was a couple of really charming actors in it, so that never hurts. So yeah, I'll give it a yay.
If they made a HBO series or a streaming series based on 30 Days a Night and it was mostly like this movie, I would love to watch it.
Yeah. I'm going to go out there and say that I think this would have been a better series than The Walking Dead.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Alaska doesn't give the same tax credits as the South.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would like to see that. In an alternate universe, as Rose said, I would like to see this have that adaptation and like success that and cult adoration that The Walking Dead did.
You know what? I was going to say, I think as much as I, on paper, love animalistic, vicious vampires, I need that homoeroticy in my vampires. I need that vibe.
My favorite Rowan word, homoeroticy.
I mean, they had a couple hot vampires, and there was clearly a relationship between the main vampire and the main lady vampire. But yeah, all the I don't know, it wasn't hot.
So we told you what we thought of it, and we asked what you thought of the movie. We had one person write in for 30 Days a Night. I wasn't sure how many people were going to write us about this one. But we had someone write us on Slasher, Jerry Dandridge, and he said he'd give it a yay. He said, one thing I always loved about the film is that it turned vampires back into animals. They hunted in packs, had blood on their faces, and hissed at others. Gone were the gentlemen dressed in capes and finery, fitting into polite society. Nosferatu looked like an animal, but acted more like Lord of the Manor.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's super fair. And that's definitely what drew me to 30 Days a Night when it came out, because I'm all about some vicious vampires. Mm-hmm. So we will go on. It's weird when I'm introducing these segments and it's not Colton. But we're going to go into the horrific hotline. So we had a message from Nicholas, as always, our brethren from Germany, as Exilia would say, her homeland. So we'll listen to that, see what he has to say.
Okay, and now talking about 30 Days of Night, which is one of those movies that worked perfectly for me when I was, I don't know, around 15 or 16. It just delivers, in the gore department in a great way. However, now rewatching it, I don't feel like I can give it a slay anymore, which I would have done with 16. I guess I'm just a bit too old now for the movie, because a few things bug me. Mostly the fact that the whole idea of the 30 Days of Night isn't all that well used, or not as well used as it could be. It feels like the movie takes place only over a few days rather than the entire month. And we skip a lot of the characters dealing with the problems of being isolated in the town and trying to cope with all that is happening. And we just skip to mostly the end of the 30 Days of Night. And I just believe that for me, there would be a better film in there that deals a bit more with this, or maybe goes towards kind of a fight or flight thing. Yeah, I'm not sure how to put it. Well, actually, I do know how to put it, like a siege that could be pretty cool. But overall, I still love the setting and the entire idea of the long night and the isolation. And all the negative stuff out of the way, I also have to say that when we do get the action set pieces, the film does not disappoint. It's fast-paced, it's gory, it's entertaining. The sequence with the snow vehicle with the giant chainsaw and also the final fight come to mind. Additionally, I think the actors were decent. I really enjoyed Ben Foster as this weird, aggressive stranger, and Danny Houston as a actually pretty scary-looking main vampire. And his death at the end is also kind of my favorite kill. Again, super gory. But looking at how the main character is able to take this ancient vampire in a 1-versus-1 fight after just becoming a vampire himself, it's a bit much, but then again, it's an horror action splatter movie, so I think that's reaching. And speaking of the vampires, I like that the film does hint at a bigger lore with regards to them without giving too much information. And I think the comics do go into more detail and have a pretty cool art style, so they are worth a read if you enjoy horror comics. So overall, this movie is not the masterpiece I remembered, but for me it's still a decent horror action movie, and it definitely can deliver on the action, the blood and the gore, and the scary vampires. So still a yay from me, and I'd say one of the better vampire movies from the 2000s. So it's not Let the Right One In, but it's definitely also not, I don't know, Blade Trinity or the Twilight movies or whatever.
You better watch out, Nicholas, talking all that trash about Twilight in front of Mike, so you might offend him.
It's on site.
Yeah, I thought there were some good points made in that. Especially like they really didn't make use of the 30 days of night. This could have been 1 day of night. This could have been one night. That's what it feels like. It feels like, I mean, because the whole town dies in the first 2 hours. So, you know, why does it have to be 30 days? I mean, it's a cool concept, but yeah, they didn't use it.
Yeah, they really don't do anything other than 2 times maybe during the movie flash a little subtitle up on the screen saying that it's 7 days later or 2 weeks after that. Like, there's really no like benchmark for like the passing of time, which is strange.
No, that's why I would love to see this like remade today as a series or something, especially that now with COVID, like we have some sense of what it's like to be locked down for 30 days. And like, you know, there's let's say there's someone in the attic who's a diabetic or something, or like, you know, there's all sorts of things that can fail if they're neglected for 30 days because you have vampires in your town. So let's play with that a little bit rather than just having the same shit you'd have in any other action movie.
This would be really cool as like a pre-planned 3-season, 10 episodes each, where each episode
one
is
episode
a
per
night.
day.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think you're on to something, Chris. So it's time for you to get working on that script and
all right,
hit the big time.
I mean, there's nothing. I can't be sued if I make a slightly derivative movie. That's the same concept. I mean, it's vampires.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's easy. But this, you know, at the end of the day, I think this is a great movie for when it came out, which our caller sort of alluded to, you know, how it hit different at age 16 or whatever. Like, definitely the age it came out, this is a great movie to just see on a weekend, I think, you know, with your high school friends or college friends, you know, in the year 2007.
Yeah, and then you go drink beer afterwards and be like, oh man, that was so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's a great date movie.
Maybe this movie could have been even better, Chris, if they put 30 Seconds to Mars in the soundtrack.
Well, they did in my universe.
I like it.
Well, we can do like a fan edit since I do have a copy downloaded. I'll just get all my 30 Seconds to Mars music and like,
I feel like
I'm telling you.
I feel like this could have had
Jared
like
Leto.
stuff like that. It could have like 30 Seconds to Mars, like, I don't know, like System of a Down, just like something super edgecore for like teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And could have worked.
I was gonna come on this episode and try to be in character like the guy I thought was Jared Leto, like Ben Foster, but he talks so weird that I can't imagine how he would say anything other than the lines that are already in the movie.
I like that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to be like Nicholas and, you know, call and leave us a message, you can call the Horrific Hotline. The number is 1-902-418-8620. You can also send a voice note to itslayspodcast@gmail.com, Or be like Nicholas. Nicholas always sends us voice notes on Instagram. That works too. Any way you can get your voice on audio, guess what? I'll make it work. I'll get it playing. And
carrier pigeon.
Yeah, carrier pigeon, any way. But yeah, and also, if you're not following us on social media, make sure to do so. It Slays Podcast on everything. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Slasher. Yeah, if it is a social media out there, we're probably on it, unless it's, I don't know, being overrun by Elon Musk minions. But we try. We'll stay at Twitter for a little while longer, as long as it doesn't implode. And also, if you like music from horror movies, go to Spotify and check out the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist. You can also go to any of our social media, and in the link tree, there's a link to it. We put music from movies we review or movies we love, iconic horror movies. Maybe we'll just throw on a 30 Seconds to Mars on the playlist and pretend it was in this.
That'd be helpful, thanks.
Yeah, and then just be like, oh yeah, that's from the 30 Days a Night episode. You don't remember that song? You know, make sure to check it out. Yeah, and then the second last thing to do is announce our upcoming episode, and it is a Mike pick. And as always, we're looking at Mike as he frantically tries to figure out what movie he picked. I promised you guys it's a great Christmas movie. Great December snow film. So luckily for Mike, I wrote it down. Mike picked the Christmas horror spectacular Magic, starring Anthony Hopkins, about ventriloquist dolls.
We shuffled a lot of picks around, so I don't know. Listen, I'm not being held responsible for you placing that as a winter movie.
Well, make sure to get Magic into your eyeballs. I guess it's fair because that episode will be coming out after Christmas, I believe. So it's like a couple days after Christmas, or maybe it's right on Christmas. I don't know. I haven't looked at the calendar yet, but yeah, get that into your eyeballs. And lastly, Chris, why don't you just remind everyone where they can hear you, find you? Maybe not like us, give your home address or anything, but...
Yeah, the show is Every Horror Movie on Netflix. We are on all the podcast providers. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at EHMONcast, EHMON cast. And yeah, check us out. We'd love to have you be part of our little family too. We also have a Discord.
They do.
We post in our show notes, which has been a lot of fun. Lots of horror community chat going on in there lately. So yeah, check us out.
I'm always browsing the Discord. I
love your Discord. I'm in like 50 Discords, and yours is easily the one that has the most action going on in it.
Aww.
Yeah, I love it. It's exciting. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Chris. And we'll have you back again. We'll definitely, we will make sure.
Saw 2. We're going to do Saw 2. Maybe Saw 2 to 5 even. We can like just cram it in family style.
That would be great. Yeah. I had a blast. Anytime you want to talk about Saw or anything James Cameron related, you know where to find me.
We'll have you back for the horror that is Avatar 2 when it comes out.
I got my tickets already.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
But yeah, thank you so much. And as always, thank you for all the support. And we will be back with a new episode in 2 weeks. I am your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
I've been Chris.
See you later.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store. Back where it says horror videos and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Mom with the new Fletch.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.